Hello, welcome to our Universities UK Innovation Growth webcast. I'm Greg Wade.
And I'm Kevin Richardson from the Higher Education Funding Council for England.
Good to see you, Kevin.
Good to see you again, Greg.
The session today is talking about the European Structural Investment Funds and an update on where we are with those. And we've got a National Growth Board PMC meeting very soon, haven't we, Kevin?
Yeah, there's a national committee on Thursday the 15th of September. It's an interesting meeting at a very interesting time, as ever at the moment. Clearly the papers for that committee were prepared before the ministerial statement on the future of the ESIF programme.
Yes. Very
traditional set of papers. And that's because there are set procedures in place for the timetable for production of the papers. I rather suspect, though, when we actually get to the committee, the national representatives of the local stakeholders may be more interested in hearing from the Minister, who is attending, I think that is positive, about the wider issues about the future of the ESIF programme.
Yes, and top of the list will be discussing the letter that was issued.
Yeah, I'm sure most of the viewers today have read the letter from the Treasury Minister, which sets out the initial position about the future management of the ESIF programme. Understand it came out at 3 o'clock on a Saturday morning. I'm not sure why that happened, but there you are. The letter is probably as helpful as it could be in the current circumstances. And clearly it was always better to have the letter out earlier rather than later. That's something we in HEFCE were particularly keen to see an early announcement. So whilst it's as positive as it could be, clearly it lends itself to lots of technical questions. Sometimes technical questions about what exactly do you mean by the guarantee, and how will you manage some of the technical issues going forward. And the important part of the letter, of course, is that the wording around those projects which are currently in full appraisal, so they've received the support of local partnership, they've been accepted in principle by the managing authority, provided those that receive the final offer letter, the grant letter, before the date of the autumn statement, then the government would guarantee that amount of ESIF going forward. Yeah,
the autumn statement is a crucial point.
Yeah, it's a pivotal point in the future.
Point.
Yeah, and the date for the autumn statement hasn't been set yet, but it's ordinarily the last week in November or the first week in December. Yes. And I think it's unlikely it will change this year.
So what do you see as the immediate challenges in relation to the period up to the autumn statement?
I think what national partners will want to know at the committee is, particularly around the ERDF programme, what capacity does the managing authority, the Department of Communities, what capacity does it have in place to ensure that the many applications which are currently in the pipeline are dealt with and receive their offer letter before the date of the autumn statement? Now, we know from our some initial research we did with yourselves just before the summer break that many universities have lots of projects in that process at the moment, and some of them have been there for a period of time.
Yes.
So, what capacity does the department have, but also what approach may they take to the appraisal of those projects? Because there may be an opportunity, perhaps, to take a different approach, to think about the sort of the future arrangements, the management of risk, and what that might mean in terms of the future process for audit.
Yeah, I think that's definitely an issue that representative Universities UK will raise at the board.
Because I think it would be a difficult situation if projects which are good projects, which have been approved and support of the partnerships, fail to get their offer letter simply because of lack of capacity in the department. Yeah. So what can the partners do to help? Yeah. I think there's something I'd be looking to see at that committee.
Absolutely. So after the autumn statement?
Well, the letter is interesting in that it doesn't set in stone the date of the autumn statement as the final closure of the ESIF programme. Okay. It sets it out as an important point, but also makes clear that there may be an opportunity thereafter for new projects to come forward. It alludes to that, but it doesn't give any certainty or any details. Yeah. So I think it would be useful if the Minister at the meeting can set out what's the government's thinking about the ongoing process around after the date of the autumn statement, because if we think it's only 12-13 weeks away, about 65 working days. Yeah, so it's not that far away.
No.
So I think what universities are looking for is a bit of direction, a bit of guidance on the process going forward.
Yeah.
So the letter was a good start, but how do the ministers and the departments build upon that and providing greater clarity?
Yes. And there aren't any necessarily immediate answers. People are still thinking through the options,
Of course, yeah.
particular options for replacing
Well,
ESIF funding. There's options out there.
Well, yeah, I think once we get over this initial peak in the workload of towards the autumn statement, I think local partners think they will turn very quickly to, well, okay, the ESIF programme may be changing, may be being curtailed by 2 or 3 years, but what are the government's intentions about the future? Now, what do we see? What are the main features of the ESIF programme which I think are relevant in the current climate? I think the first one is that the ESIF programme perhaps takes a more holistic approach to local growth, where it looks at not just infrastructure, but some of the business support services, innovation, climate change, the role of social inclusion, training. So perhaps a wider approach than some of the UK funding streams, but also, of course, the fact that the ESIF programme is very deliberately targeted to the places with the greatest economic need. Now, of course, in the context of the Brexit vote and the concerns which the government clearly have around the places where local people perceive they're being left behind, how can a replacement programme of this type target those areas with the same degree of certainty as the current ESIF programme? Now, those are big debates, and I'm sure the new government is reviewing the options as we speak. But clearly there are some lessons to be learned from the ESIF programme.
Yes, and we'll be looking to work with universities to contribute to those debates in the department.
Yeah, and I think what would be really positive at the meeting, if the government gave a commitment to work with the different national representative bodies, such as Universities UK, the Local Government Association and others, to identify options going forward.
Yeah, absolutely, because the sort of partnerships that are forming around projects are exactly the sort of partnerships that will help deliver on the key priorities in the future.
Exactly, and there's a lot of good work being done at that local level, and we've seen a significant increase in the involvement of universities in those local partnerships, and I'm sure the government don't want to lose that momentum. No.
Okay, that's excellent. Thank you, Kevin. Colleagues, as usual, my colleague James Ransom will provide a video update immediately after the Growth Programme Board, so that you'll be able to get a full report on what was discussed. But thank you, Kevin.
Okay, thank you, Greg.